You know, people have talked about competing views on land use for a long time. We lived in the Soviet Union in 1972 as a guest of the Soviet Academy of Sciences and had the opportunity to become quite well acquainted with Mikhail Gorbachev when he was Minister of Agriculture at that time, and went out to his invitation to the frontier lands, which are the Central Asian areas that were just being broke up as a major area. And I realized then that if you had a society that just viewed this land mass as potential food production without really understanding, you were going to be in a wreck. And that whole Middle East area, stretching up into Siberia on the one side, into China and Mongolia, and over into the Middle East, there's a reason that has a culture like it does and has the variety of livestock that it does, because it's very nomadic. And we look at that in one context. We look at other parts of the world, and I'll use, we operated in Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, and there, through political reasons, it was the breadbasket of Africa. Well, now it's starving. And that's how, when you get into the political aspects of this, the questions get left on the table. Like, what is the competing use of land? Well, in this particular case, in our operation, there was good management, and next door, the tribal areas had all these extra cattle, so that there was just like a hardwood floor. There was no growth there. And you look across at the traditional fifth generation British farmer, and he had banked up some forage so that he could put this all together. Then we put that in context of what we have in Western Canada. And in Western Canada, and if we use the Calgary-Edmonton corridor as an example, this is one of the fastest growing diverse economic regions in Canada. It's just like Southern Ontario, where you've got the oil industry and the oil service business, and you've got a rapid increase in population. So as a result, you have expanding towns and expanding demand for this basic resources, whether they be water or whether they be energy or whether they be jobs. But the land use competition, we have to have enough common sense that we say, okay, there are some areas. For example, in the area between Calgary and Cochrane on the north side, it's a glacial moraine, and it's gravel. There have been hundreds of farmers, dairy farmers, because there's no water there, that could milk 20 cows that have gone broke. Well, that to me is where you put population. You've got a phenomenal view. You've got services that are there. There's a competition. There's not competition for fiber or food. It's competition for environmental views, if you like, and an economy and a great place to live. And let's contrast that to the Edmonton area, where we have the Lake Edmonton, which is some of the best, deepest black soil there is anywhere in Western Canada. And we're expanding on the old lake bed, just like we are in Red Deer, for example. And that to me is where we need to have some long-term land use decisions. There's areas west of Edmonton along the Saskatchewan that the development should be. But it's easier just to go where there's flat land and a few farms to buy out. But let's come back to, what are our long-term goals? Will we have a continuation of population? We're fortunate here in Alberta. We've got this phenomenal geography, phenomenal diversity, relatively few people, only 3.5 million people in this province, which is peanuts. There's more people in the backyard in Delhi than that type of thing. So that's not very many people. We have an economy in the energy business, and I use that term deliberately because we have a conventional oil and gas, and we have the oil sands, and then we have shale. And all of those add to our stability here as a driver. Now, our biggest thing, and I've said this for years, our major asset is winter, because winter allows us, from a land use point of view, to have an enforced rest period. And that means that we use less herbicides, we use less insecticides than any other part of major food growing area in the world or fiber growing area in the world. And it also means that there's a lot of people who don't want to live here if they got to put up with winter. And that's probably a natural barrier to us becoming Southern California, for example. But it does not mean that we cannot address the issue of land use. And the recent development in Alberta of addressing the river systems as the land use basis makes a lot of sense to me. I made a presentation of this in 1972 to the McDonald Commission, saying that we'd better put a long-term program in place. And that does not mean that we extend the Fisheries Act to include every little trickle of water that runs through for 3 weeks in the summertime. It means having an overall look at what is the long-term value here. And now with the space satellites, where we can measure with Doppler and infrared, we can actually map all of the weather. We can map where the water is. We can map where the growth of biota is. We can map all of the geography and where the people are and making an effect. And all of a sudden, we're going to find some interesting things.